Well, welcome everybody. Time for a bit of golf in the cafe today, and OG is back. Well, he's the man of the moment at the moment, apart from if you're playing golf and winning. If you Collin Morikawa, maybe you're the man. But as far as OG is concerned, he is, because he got him and went for him in the PGA Championship. And you know what was clever, OG, is we left it for a week, because I don't think you and I would have found Jim Herman in a month of Sundays.
Listen, I don't think anyone would have ever gone down that far in the odds to go pick up Jim and put some money on him. So I think after that PGA Championship win, it was a good thing to cool off a little bit and just, I didn't even watch much of the tournament. So I saw on Saturday that Siwoo Kim was going along well. He even had a hole-in-one. Almost got a second one as well. And I pretty much went to bed on Sunday thinking Siwoo Kim will wrap this up. So waking up on Monday to see that Herman has actually won, I was quite surprised, yeah.
So, yeah, I had an interesting experience. I didn't watch anything of it live because I think there must have been Europa League or Champions League. You know, there's matches every night. But what I was doing that night was I had it on the PGA Tour, and I was watching it hole by hole. And it was quite interesting because, as you say, Siwoo Kim was even, I think, on the last round. And everybody else was shooting -5s, -6. I think Herman shot -7. And it's crazy how that can happen. You can have two very low rounds, but if you stagnate on the final day, you can end up getting caught, which is what happened to him.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at Herman, he had to make up 4 shots on the final day. And it just tells you what, how he probably played aggressive golf. And I think also if you're chasing, it's kind of easier for you to do that. Whereas if you do actually, are in the lead and everybody's chasing you, you kind of want to be cautious and not want to lose too many shots. And I think maybe that might have been the approach for Siwoo Kim on that final day. Whereas Jim Herman, a 43-year-old guy who, only won his first PGA tournament in his late 30s, and this is only his third one. So it tells you a journeyman on the PGA Tour. But I guess for him to win amongst those young stars was a big victory for him last week.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know what I enjoyed? It was odd. I never watched any of the golf, but because I was up late, I actually watched his press conference. And of course, these days it's all done remotely, so it's all on Zoom. And it was really entertaining because he was saying exactly as you said, 100%. He said that he knew he had to shoot lights out because I think the previous day he shot 9 under, and he said he was still 4 off the pace. So he knew that he had to go low. But it was very entertaining. Anyway, either way, we would never have found him. But maybe the Northern Trust. Because as you know, OG, it's all being condensed. This is important because we're now into the FedEx Playoffs. So only the top 70 are going to progress. And there's only 3 these days. So it's slightly changed format. But we know the Northern Trust because we're at the TPC Boston. So we're very familiar with that venue. And it's got a tremendous field. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Again, the top golfers are all going to play starting tomorrow.
Nearly anything, I think, in this post-lockdown golf PGA Tour season that we've had is that if you look at the past 10 tournaments that they've had, I mean, we've had such great fields. Maybe bar the Wyndham where a couple of the guys maybe wanted to take a break before heading into the playoffs. But this week we've got, the top 10 players in the world are back in it. We've got more major champions who are coming back. The likes of Shane Lowry is back. Tiger Woods himself, obviously, he's in the playoffs. And I saw some interaction between him and Morikawa.
I saw you tweet that. That was great.
I tweeted that and I thought, I mean, how incredible is that? That a youngster who grew up watching Tiger, and to have Tiger then the first time he sees you after winning says, listen, welcome to the majors, bud. And I'm sure being able to, tap into knowledge of those kind of guys gives the likes of Morikawa that confidence to go and compete, which is something I expect him to do again this week, Neil.
Yeah, he's just incredible. I mean, it's been breakthrough years for particularly Morikawa, but Hovland and a lot of these youngsters. In fact, Jim Herman in his press conference said, you know what, it can get very depressing. He said, mentally, it's as much a mental game for me out on the tour because he said, every year I'm getting older and older, and every year the youngsters are coming through and they're bombing it. And I'm thinking, what am I even doing out here? So it was a really fascinating interview. It's quite interesting. I talk about TPC. Technically, it's actually not the TPC in Boston because I had to Google at it. It's actually closer to Providence than it is to Boston. And the actual city, or I don't want to say city, it's a village, is called Norton. And I saw something interesting. They said, believe it or not, OG, that the first traffic light in Norton was installed in 1997. So it's not a big village, this. Can you believe it? Their first traffic light was in 1997. So it's a beautiful location. But what is your gut feel? Because it's going to be interesting. So many people need to move in terms of their FedEx points, and others need to retain their position. So what's your gut feeling?
Ooh, it's actually a tough one this week, Neil. Sort of has that major championship feel about it because of, the people that are in the field. A guy like Rory, for me, it's actually crazy that he hasn't won since, the lockdown, actually the post-lockdown, because such an incredible, talent. He was player of the year last year, and you expect him to compete all the time. And he's kind of struggled, especially with his short game recently. But he's won twice there. So you'd like to think maybe those good field memories will actually come back and steer him to say, listen, this is a course I know how to win on. And it's also a course that actually, suits the long hitter, which Rory is one of them. So I kind of want to lean towards him, but his form recently hasn't been the greatest. And someone else who's been bombing it, and we talk about him probably every week now, is Bryson DeChambeau. So he's possibly also one of those guys that I don't know how he sings the club, but a guy that averages now like 360, 340 yards is just incredible. I mean, totally insane. But you ask about my gut feel. I'm going to go with one of those young guns that, Herman is speaking about. And I think Matthew Wolff, for me, is a guy that hits it long, but he can also control it. And in the past 10 tournaments as well, he's been there and thereabouts. And like the likes of Hovland and Morikawa, he's got it in him to win. And I think having seen his buddy come through and winning a major championship as well will kind of push him. So he's definitely my gut feel and my dark horse to go on and win this week.
Now, that's an interesting name. I didn't have him on my radar, but I certainly wouldn't take him off because now that you mention him, I'm also thinking you might be onto something there because he was really in the hunt of the PGA for a long time, wasn't he? He was there on the final day. He's interesting because he doesn't muck about in terms of the speed that he plays. He's a bit unique. So he's almost the opposite to Bryson DeChambeau with his vectors and everything that's measured. He just gets up and hits it. And he almost unravels some opponents around him.
And I think that's what he's kind of taught everyone is, you're all told, swing your swing. And that's what we see with Matthew Wolff. I actually enjoyed reading an article where Vijay Singh was interviewed, and he talked about having played with Matthew Wolff. And he said, seeing his swing on TV, it looks more exaggerated. But because we know, especially Vijay, is such a technical guy and someone who always worked hard at his game and the technical parts of it, he said if you break down Matthew Wolff's swing, it doesn't look as exaggerated in person as it does on television. And he said to him, continue doing what you do. And it clearly works for him. If you're competing at this level and you've won as well, and you're competing in major championships and doing well, there's clearly nothing wrong with that. And you're right as well, Neil, where, in the days where everyone complains about slow play, here's a guy who just, picks it up, beats it down the middle, and he's got the short game to play with that long game as well. So definitely look out for him to be, up there this week.
Yeah, okay, so we'll definitely add to that list. I just want to add something to our viewers, which is they probably do know, but in case they don't, it's interesting this Northern Trust, because Patrick Reed is the Northern Trust defending champion, but he didn't win it at the Boston TPC because it was a different venue. So the actual 2018 Boston TPC, or the Northern Trust that was held at the TPC was won by Bryson DeChambeau. So theoretically, Bryson DeChambeau, I prefer to go horses for courses. So in my mind, if you've won it at another course, from a punting point of view, that doesn't really help me. But the fact that you've won at Boston. And I just want to add something to what OG said. He's 100% right, because remember that the TPC Boston used to be used with the FedEx Playoffs regularly. So there's a lot of guys, there's 14 different winners here, and Rory has won twice. So if you're looking for somebody who is long overdue to come back into the winners' circle, and we know that if Rory's driver works and his short game comes to the party, he's so much longer than pretty much everybody else. He could trot up and win easily. But as you say, it's just a crisis in confidence, it would appear. Listen, he's too good to stay out of the winner's circle, but it's just a question of when he comes back to form.
It definitely is, and I think for him it's more mental than anything else, because we know just extremely how talented he is. So it can't be that. I think it's just a mental thing, which maybe might have come with a couple of months out and not playing. But I think once he finds his groove again, and you're right, he's not going to sit outside of the winner's circle for too long. So he's definitely a good bet. We've got a couple of South Africans as well that
Yeah,
will
who's
make it
playing there
interesting.
for us?
Louis is there, Dylan is also there, and I mean Dylan started out the postseason sort of well, and he kind of faded, especially after he tested positive for COVID-19. But having spoken to him and knowing the kind of work that he's been putting into his game as well, and now that he's settled inside the PGA Tour, I like his chances as well. Especially finishing top South African. Definitely, I would put that on him. But he's a guy, he doesn't have much to lose. The beauty about the FedEx Cup is that you kind of want to keep going. So knowing that, the top 70 will move on to the BMW Championships, you want to be there, you want to compete with the best of the best. I think that might spur him on to actually go on and do well this week.
You're so right. There's so many pointers. I'm actually I printed out the FedEx list. I wanted to see who's on the bubble, because often a guy sitting 72 or 73 or in the 80s plays well because he knows that he's got to move. The one guy, and you talk about Rory being off form, Ricky Fowler, he's way out in the FedEx, and he's never missed this leg of the FedEx. I think the worst he's ever finished at this stage is in the top 40. I'm just wondering if Fowler, if he can find some form, because he has got some form here. I think he won back. I've got it here. He won in 2015.
He's won there.
Yeah. He shot 67, 67, 67, 68. I've got it in front of me. He beat Henrik Stenson. Patrick Reed was tied 4th that year. Daniel Berger tied 12th. And a couple others further back. Louis actually finished tied 12th with Gary Woodland that year. So, and I like Ricky Fowler, I've got to be honest, because I think he's kind of the image that we want to project for young golf. He's always dresses well, behaves well, he's a good guy. So I'm hoping that Ricky Fowler can find some form, but he's a bit like McIlroy. I mean, just a crisis in confidence, really.
Absolutely no way this season. And you're actually correct, Daniel, that I think he's a fan favorite of note, and a lot of us want him to win. And I think if we talk about the confidence game, this is one person who kind of is probably lacking that confidence. And it's kind of surprising because, I mean, he's friends with the likes of Justin Thomas, who just looks like he can win every week he goes out. But then his other best friend as well is Jordan Spieth, who mentally is definitely in a rut and struggling so hard. And you wonder what sort of conversations those guys are having in amongst themselves as friends, especially when you're seeing one of the legs doing so well, coming close in the major championships. He's won 3 times this season already. And it kind of, I doubt it creates friction, but it will be interesting to find out what those guys kind of talk about. And for the longest time, maybe like Sergio Garcia, Ricky was always seen as that next young guy to kind of burst through and win a major. And now you're seeing a 23-year-old come out in his second major and he wins. Does that put doubt in your mind to say, geez, maybe I just don't have what it takes? Or does it push you the other way to say, geez, I've been on tour more than a decade and these guys are coming out and blazing these courses. Let me push myself up. So you kind of wonder the sort of, confidence he draws from those type of scenarios. But he hasn't been anyway, I mean, in the last 10 tournaments, for me anyway, to say Ricky has something in it for him this week to go out and challenge.
Yeah, I think it's more wishful thinking on my part than anything else. But all I do know is if I'm Ricky Fowler, right, and I've got these guys dialing me, I'm going to be saying, Justin Thomas is coming in. I'll take that call. Jordan, you want to hang around with Justin Thomas for sure. I'm going to give you my roughie. You're probably going to think I'm mad, but I'm giving you because it's pretty open. I've been thinking that Hideki is trending. So Matsuyama to me is just a frustration. I think he's gone 3 years without winning. Now, I'm not suggesting he's going to win, but he drives it very well. His stats for par 5s are very good, and there's 3 par 5s at Boston TPC that are tricky par 5s. So if he can play them well, he's almost taking 2 shots out of the rest of the field. And I had a look at the TPC 2018 where Bryson won. He finished tied 15th. And the second round, he shot a 73. So if you take that very poor round in the context, everybody else was shooting 65s and 66s and 67s. If you take that out, he was right there. And then there was another one, the previous one, the TPC, when Rory McIlroy won at Boston in 2016, which is also fairly recent. He was on the leaderboard there. He shot -8, and he didn't have a great final round. He shot only -1, where Adam Scott was shooting 6 under, and McIlroy also shot 6 under to win. So I suppose he's a bit of a favourite. I haven't been putting any money on him for at least 18 months because I've just seen he's been struggling. But I wonder if it isn't the kind of player that's overdue. And particularly, you said earlier on, a lot of the younger players are seeing other younger players coming through. I think Hideki must be seeing a lot of the Asian players who are now making their mark. Maybe that'll incentivize him to put together 4 good rounds.
Yeah, the likes of Sanjay Im as well. He had a good week last week. Was in contention as well heading into the weekend. So those guys will definitely push him. And I mean, if you look at Hideki, he definitely has it in him to go low. Well, remember that, the last tournament that was actually played before the lockdown at the Players, he was leading the tournament, having shot, a course record as well. So he definitely does, can go into the low 60s. And Hideki is definitely one to put money on. When you talk about that, I think of a guy like Harold Varner. I haven't put him, to go on and win, but when golf came back at the Charles Schwab, he was leading for about 2 days. Yes. Last week as well, he shot a 62. So I just think maybe that might be another guy who just needs to close it out a little bit more. He's only won once on a PGA Tour. So maybe just getting into that mentality of, I can actually win. Because, I mean, you shoot a 62, I expect you to be there and thereabout on the weekend as well. Yes. So he definitely has the game and the form at the moment. So maybe if someone I wasn't thinking about before, but might maybe just put something on, it might be Harold Varner III.
Well, I'm going to show you something. I don't know if you can see it, right? Go down to 73. See, he's on the bubble there, 73. Harold Varner.
Exactly. I see that.
So I flagged him up because he's got a bit of TPC Boston form as well. So I like what you're saying is. We're saying a lot of these favorite guys are up at the top, but the top 15 in the FedEx Cup have probably cemented their place anyway. They can't statistically drop out. So those 15, I don't think there's any value in it. Those top picks. So I'm like you. I'm looking for shots. So Harold Varner will be a big price. I know Hideki on some exchanges was as big as 55 to 1. And you could get 11 to 1, 12 to 1 a place. So I'm always looking for value as you are. But I didn't see Matthew Wolff, but he's going to be a big price. But it's going to be interesting. 4 days, and it doesn't stop now, of course, because the FedEx is into the playoffs. And we can watch it all on Super Sport.
Continue now.
We can watch Champions League and all of the sports that's coming back online.
I mean, we are sport for choice at the moment. Champions League football almost every night. There'll be the Champions League final, or Europa final on Friday, then Champions League final on Saturday. The Absa Premiership has just opened up. I was just watching Kaizer Chiefs and Bloom Celtic now, and I'm sure the Sundowns fans will be happy that Chiefs lost today. So there's just so much sport to consume on SuperSport this weekend. I'll definitely be stuck to the couch, not a doubt.
Listen, if I'm backing on the PSL, all I do is back the draw, because the other day there were 3 draws. Pirates drew, Blitz drew, everybody drew. Go for
you're most likely to actually make some money if you bet on the draw.
OG, it's been a great pleasure chatting to you. Again, well found. I said on Twitter, remarkable that you found Collin Morikawa at a massive price to win the PGA Championship. And you've loaded him up again. You've thrown Matthew Wolff into the mix, which is going to be interesting. But yeah, everybody loves their golf. We've given you a few shrewdies to have a look at. But OG, thanks for joining us. And we'll catch up with you next week when we move on to the next. We'll see which 70 golfers survive. And as we progress to the FedEx playoffs, thanks for joining us.
Exciting times, Neil. We're definitely looking forward to it as well. And this morning I was actually out at Killarney Country Club, the Sunshine Tour officially back as well. So look out for that. It was actually interesting. The scores were very low. The course was playing tough, but it was good to see our professionals out playing golf again competitively.
Yeah, and I suppose we should have the bet. If you're going to have the bet, you should have the bet with Betway, because I think they were the sponsors, weren't they?
The Betway Championship, it is the first of the 5 tournaments swing in Gauteng of the Sunshine Tour. They call it the Rise Up Series. And yeah, a lot of the guys are excited to once again be playing. The scores can show that the course A was playing tough, and the morning field actually suffered because they teed off in -2 degrees weather in Joburg this morning. Some of the greens were still frozen, as a matter of fact, when they teed off. But yeah, to have professional golf back again with the Betway Championship has been amazing.
Wonderful. Nice that you touched on that. That's OG. That's golf. Enjoy it. If you're going to have a punt, as I say, well, Betway are sponsoring local golf. You might as well have a bet with them.